Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I hope that you guys have been doing extraordinary since the last time that we talked. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about the evolution of the self. In our previous video, we talked all about grief. We talked about the definition of grief, what to expect with grief, its stages, its process, and while we were discussing, we came to the understanding that grief is not limited to death. And we continued to list off a whole bunch of reasons why people will experience grief throughout their lifetime that does not have to do with death. And one of the things that shocked both of us while we were talking about it was how much we grieve over our own personal self. We talked about how many significant losses we can experience: jobs, school, friends, relationships, our childhood home, maybe a car we drove when we were younger, or a favorite book, or a childhood stuffed animal. And I took note right away. I was like, you know what? This is so important that I think we could just talk about it all on its own. So that's what we are going to talk about today, you guys, is the evolution of the self and how in the process of evolving, we will experience grief and we will lose parts and bits of ourself that we may have never imagined. So, as always, if you guys would love to grab some tea, if you would like to get a snack, little Mrs. has just always wanted to be in the picture lately. But yeah, if you would like to grab a snack, if you want to grab your little furry friend, I think this is going to be a very beneficial topic of conversation for the both of us. So, without further ado, let's go on and get started. Yes, Thumbelina, you're probably just going to sit down, aren't you? I'm making a video. Hey, come on, baby. Can we go back up on our cat bed? Dumb. Did you guys see that? She has no top teeth. So I'm an old woman, leave me alone. But seriously, honey, I'm going to have to put you on your cat bed, okay? So, without further ado, let's talk about the evolution of the self. Now, I think we can all agree that when it comes to the beginning of human development, all of us are pretty, we got the basic knowledge. We grasp the basics, right? Even if it's before a child is born, we know the developmental stages of a fetus. We know how big the little bean is growing, and alas, the child starts to grow. And we have expectations for human development. We know that within a certain amount of time, a child is going to start growing their baby teeth. They're going to start learning how to crawl, how to walk, how to eat solid food, how to distinguish colors from shapes. They'll start learning their animals. Pretty soon we got the terrible twos, and we have the crazy little toddlers at 4 years old just running around causing a muck. We know what to expect when it comes time for puberty. We know that chemically and hormonally and just personally we're going to change. Our brains are developing, our bodies are evolving, we are evolving. And then we become teenagers and we know what to expect, you know? We celebrate our sweet 16 and there's all these, we get our license, and you know, it kind of seems like that's when the ride starts to slow down. It's kind of like the party's over. Like, think about it. Some of us celebrate the big old 21, and I even remember growing up and I used to hear that, oh, a woman's brain is fully developed by the time she's like 23, and a man takes a little bit longer. But if you see an adult acting or behaving a certain way, that's just who they are. There's no change. That's just who they are. There's no more evolving of the self. And while I was, writing these notes to myself and also doing research, I just found myself being confused by that expectation, by that notion. And to my surprise, I found so many scientists and doctors and psychologists and authors out there who are kind of on the same page as me, but they have a little bit more knowledge underneath their belt. There's this huge notion that developmental theory doesn't just stop there. And I think the more we as humans, we as a society, we as evolving beings, the more we understand that, the more easier life can be, the more wiggle room we have to allow ourselves to grow. We better understand that our inner self is forever evolving. I mean, I have a theory we're going to be evolving long past this death too. So like, think about it, you know? It's so silly for us to think that just because our body stops growing, you know, that doesn't mean that our minds don't stop expanding. And what's more interesting is there's a concept in psychology called developmentalism. And that's the notion that we don't just stop growing in size. We don't just stop getting bigger. We not only become more complex, but we become more evolved the more we experience, the older we get. You know, it's kind of silly for us to think that we'll shed our baby teeth, but we won't shed and let go of aspects of ourselves. And when we do, we're confronted with that crazy sensation, that crazy emotion, that crazy experience known as grief. We're not warned how much change our character, our personality, our likes and dislikes, we're not warned how much change it'll go through, how much our personality will evolve. And, you know, I will never forget when my mom was here, she used to drill into my head. She used to say, Sarah, please don't ever change. Do not let anything change you. Do not let this world change you. Do not let another person change you, a relationship change you. She goes, don't let your father change you. And I'm gonna be honest, you guys, I feel like that set me up for failure. And it took me over a decade for me to realize that it's okay for me to change. It's inevitable that I'm going to change. And the more I accept that and harness that and love me for that, the easier it will be. You know, I really do. I feel like even now I still have a hard time letting go of the Sarah I used to be. And it's really hard for us as evolving young adults to change when we may have grown up with parents who didn't want us to grow up fast or too fast, you know? And that's to be expected. But who is that really helping? Now that I'm thinking about it, is that just stopping a parent from evolving further as a parent and understanding that that child doesn't need to be babied anymore, that teenager does not need to be babied anymore? They need that toughness. They need an evolving parent to evolve along with them. You know, but it makes so much sense. My dad never wanted to change. He still called me his baby when I was 20. But I wasn't a baby anymore. I didn't think like a baby. I didn't act like a baby. And it's hard for us to think about that. And like I said, it makes it so much harder to let go of aspects of ourself that need to be let go for us to evolve when we're expected to stay the same. Even if other people aren't expecting it, sometimes we put that own expectation on ourselves. I know I do. And that's one heck of a weird pill to swallow when you take a step back and start reevaluating your system, inner system and outer system. And remember in our last video, with all stages of grief, the one thing we just must avoid at all costs is remaining stuck. Because unresolved grief will become unresolved trauma. It's the same way with evolving as a person. We have to compare it the same way. We cannot stay stuck when we're meant to evolve. We can't stay stuck on a personality, a relationship, a career, a perspective, or a belief we used to have, because that very perspective or belief might be holding us back, causing us to stay stuck, hindering us from evolving. I mean, think about a butterfly. Do you think a caterpillar has any clue what is starting to happen to them when they start just crystallizing, turning into a chrysalis, cocooning itself? They don't know that they're gonna come out with wings. All they've known is crawling on the surface level of Earth. They might fall from a leaf but they have no idea what's out there. And imagine if they stayed stuck. Imagine if they fought with every ounce in their body not to evolve. It's probably so darn scary. And think about it. Think how much we're just like them. Calipiters go through it all by themselves. They don't have mama butterfly sitting there saying, "Hi honey, don't worry, you're gonna come out looking just like me." Some calipiters probably don't even know what their moms look like because their egg hatched after mama flew away. They're not warned about what it's gonna take. They're not warned if it's gonna hurt. They're not even taught. It's just like us. Some of us, we don't have someone holding our hand. We don't know what to expect. So then when it is painful, when our bodies do start stretching and turning in different ways, it doesn't make sense to us. But what does make sense is us just wanting to hold on to what we know. The little bit of familiarity is what comforts us. But like I said, imagine, just imagine, that calipiter would never know that there is a whole vast world. More flowers than the imagination could imagine. Sweeter nectar other places. You know, they don't just have to chew on leaves anymore. Because that's what calipiters do. They just nibble, 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 nibble. And then what? One day, they evolve into this gorgeous butterfly that has a beautiful mouth that can stick into the most beautiful flowers and taste nectar and honey that their little soul and tummies would have never in their right mind imagined. We are the same way. So even if it's hard for us to sit down and think about a human evolving, a mind evolving, a brain evolving, just think about a butterfly. Just think about a calipiter and compare yourself to that. Because we're just like that. We're just like that. I think what we do have to our advantage is research, knowledge. We can ask questions, not just think them, you know? That little calipiter, when he turns into a butterfly, he's not gonna wanna eat the same things he was eating when he was a calipiter. He's not gonna wanna live under the same leaves or even among the same trees because he has a new perspective, a newfound confidence. Confidence behind letting themselves and their experience, their journey evolve. Because once we start allowing our inner self to continue to evolve, everything else is just gonna come along with us. The doors are gonna open, new experiences, the universe is just gonna be like, wow, you're evolving, we gotta evolve. That's what Mother Nature and the universe is gonna say. They're gonna be like, dang, that little, they're about to be a butterfly. As we're growing up, we change forms, just like the calipiter changes form. Just like a baby changes form. Our personalities change form too. That's what maturing is. That's what exploring life is. We form ourselves and then we go through a process of reforming. And we have all these different forms of ourself that we've come to know. We know our present form of self, our previous form of self. And what can we do? We can use all of those forms we previously know and transform our present self. It's not just about letting go completely and forgetting about everything. We can transcend but include our prior logic, the prior understanding, the knowledge we had gained. We can bring that with and transform even more. And that's another very important aspect of the evolution of the self. Sometimes we need to take a step back, especially if we feel stuck. Because if we're able to take a step back and re-examine everything, re-examine our internal system, we make room to start a new adventure, a new voyage. We have an inner compass, we all do. And that inner compass is our guide. It's our guiding light. It's our intuition. It knows. And through the evolution of the self, our compass grows. It becomes stronger. It becomes smarter, wiser, more aware. It can sense things that other people can't sense. But how can it evolve if we never take a step back and look at it? See if our system is even regulated, you know? And that's what is so important. And even I was listening to a YouTube video, and there was a professor of psychology, and he was explaining the importance of having a system. Because if you think about it, even like look at the justice system. A system is needed. Because why? We can take a step back from the system and reevaluate it to see what needs to be improved. How can we evolve the system to make it more beneficial for society, for the evolution of humans? But imagine if we didn't have a set system to base anything off of. A system is important. So even though an education system is important, if we didn't have a system and it was just chaos, we wouldn't even be able to see where the flaws are. And that's what's amazing, is we have so many individuals who can take a step back, look at the system from afar, and say this is where things need to be improved. Because there's some people inside the system that are just blinded. And I'm not saying that that makes them a worse person or a bad person or a less evolved person or anything, but there's some people who aren't able to take a step back and see, or even have the ability to, after they take a step back, to make the changes, to implement the next steps that will further evolution. There's some people who will stay stuck a caterpillar for this lifetime. But that doesn't mean we have to stay stuck. We're all on different paths. We're all on different journeys. But understanding that we are evolving as ourselves, we also need to take into consideration and respect the fact that there are some, maybe this journey around, this lifetime, they're not going to evolve into a butterfly. Their ways of thinking may be impossible to change. But that doesn't mean that we have to live that way. And understanding that we live in a world, in a society where there are people who will be stuck as caterpillars and they will never make it to the next step. That should inspire us to be the butterflies of this world. Be the butterflies that can show other caterpillars this is possible. It's going to take hard work, dedication, a lot of evolving, a lot of pain, stretching, pulling, and twisting. It's going to feel weird. But once you're here, it's just amazing. That's what we have to strive to be the butterflies in this crazy, crazy, chaotic world. In the beginning of the video, when I mentioned that when we're little kids and we start going to school and we're in the school system, that we're kind of being conditioned to be a part of society, to be a part of the tribe, to listen to authority, to listen to the system that's outside of us, right? It's like our first original form. We're just a little caterpillar, going to caterpillar school, learning how to write, how to read cursive, how to do multiplication, division. We're becoming a member of the tribe, and that can be seen as developing and evolving into our socialized mind. Well, what comes after that? We start out as a little individual with a socialized mind, and as we continue to evolve, we develop what's known as a self-authoring mindset. And this is where, instead of being shaped by the tribe, instead of being shaped by society, we start to shape ourselves. And I think this is one of the beginning stages of the evolutionary process of the self, where grief can start to set in. We're letting go of that hive mind, that tribe mindset. We're starting to become independent thinkers, independent beers. It's when our inner compass really starts to start forming itself. It starts to realize that it can actually navigate on its own. It can think for itself. It can take care of itself. We may not be a full-fledged adult, but we're evolving. We're understanding like, hey, I can be the author of my own life. I'm a creator too. When we were first just a member of the tribe and developing our socialized mindset, we were told the expectations of everything, how to act. We were told what the expectations were from our environment, from our teachers, from the cops, from our parents, from our grandparents, from our babysitter. And when we find ourselves developing our self-authoring mindset, we evolve to a point where, we find ourselves sitting here and we think, I understand and I respect the expectations that society and the environment has on me. Yet, you're willing to judge, to analyze, to dissect all of these expectations and rules, and you ask yourself, am I willing to meet those expectations? As a kid, at least I can speak for myself, there was no ifs, ands, or buts if I listened to my mom or dad. But I think we all remember when we start turning like 15, 16, those expectations kind of actually start turning into options. You know, you're like, I know that you have that expectation for me, but it's kind of up to me if I'm going to live up to that expectation. And that's where we start realizing that we can be the author of our own world, our own personality. And this is where it's so important, because the compass that we were given as a kid, that all the tribe members had, we're all following the same compass. We realize that we have our own internal compass. We don't have to move with the tribe. We don't have to move with society. We can actually take a step back and see, like I said, how is that system working, how it's not working, and you get to choose if you want to actually be a part of it. It's like your mind is evolving to a place where there's more freedom, a lot more freedom. It almost seems like one of the main goals of present day reality is to control us and make us think that we're not as free as we are, especially in our mind. We are so free to move and evolve and continue to grow. There's no limits, there's no limitation. And this is another huge point in our journey where grief is introduced. When we are starting to be our own authority, grow our own inner compass, take a step back and really look if we want to respect and live by all of these expectations that the world has placed around us like a bubble, it's scary. We worry, will I be accepted? Will I still be liked? Will I still be the same person? We might even be scared that we won't love or accept the person we change into. We are all so vastly different that some of us, we might not even reach this state of being or this mindset until we're in our 30s, until we're in our 40s, until we're in our 50s. So that's why it's so silly to stop educating the world on how vast the mind is, how much we can evolve as humans. And I think self-awareness is so detrimental when it comes to any stage of our evolution of the self. Because we have to still understand and respect where we are at. Respect our current form. We have to understand that our form, our mindset still has limitations, and we have to be humble enough to accept that. Like a caterpillar, he knows he can't fly. It's just, they can't fly. But imagine if they lied to themselves or tried to convince themselves otherwise. You have to be humble enough to understand and be self-aware at the current stage. Because if we act like we're more evolved than we are, that's just gonna cause problems in the long run, you know? That's where I still have a hard time with the notion fake it till you make it, because we don't need to fake anything. It's a process. We need to evolve to be who we want to be. A caterpillar is not just gonna fake being a butterfly. It's going to go through what it needs to go through. The growth mentally, physically, and the time. It can't happen overnight. So that's why I'm saying it's very realistic for us to, one, understand that there's going to be a lot of caterpillars who just don't evolve in this lifetime, and that's okay. But we also have to be realistic with where we currently are in our stage of development. Do you think that an oak tree has any idea what its fullest potential is when it's still stuck inside of a seed? That energy, that being, that mind inside of that seed has to burst through that shell. I don't know if you guys know how hard tree shells are. It's really, 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 really hard to get those babies to root. They gotta go through some crazy stuff. And guess what? Sometimes the environment that it's in, the soil it's born into, it's not the best. It's not supple, it's not nutritious. And they might have to work even harder. Feed itself even more. They might even have to hope that maybe a bird's gonna pick them up and take them somewhere else, you know? But they don't understand the full potential. That's what we are, you guys. We're little tree seeds. We're little tree seeds just trying to burst open and begin to grow. Begin to grow. And then if you think about it, we are just a complex bag of a being because we've got a mind, a body, and a soul that are all evolving at once. You know, some of us are only taught how to feed the physical body, how to nurture and feed it. Some of us barely even know how to still take care of it. It's a hard, weird game out here, you guys. But like I said, I think the more we just prepare ourselves, the more we know what to expect, it'll just be a little bit easier to navigate. And if not easier to navigate, it will be easier for us to come up with questions that will help guide our journey. We just can't stay stuck, you guys. And I want it to just be expected that it's not going to be a pretty journey. It's not just going to feel like a feather tickling us all day. You know, evolving is hard. Lord knows what mankind in general has gone through to get to where we are today. You know, and to think we're only here for 100 plus maybe years. And I know that we all have the potential to become butterflies. It's not going to be easy. And you know, I truly think that the more we understand about ourselves, the changes we're going through, the aspects of ourselves that we've had to drop or that took us a very long time to drop or become aware of, alert of, if we understand that and respect and care for that, if we understand that about ourselves at a deeper level, it opens our eyes to the way others are. We may not understand them fully, you know, it's hard to ever understand another human, but I feel like if we just understand that, you know, some people won't leave the tribe of mind, the socialized mindset that we were conditioned to be a part of when we were young. So if you run into somebody who thinks different or is like running with the crowd, or you're just like, why are you thinking that way? Why are you acting this way? You know, don't be mean, don't be rude, don't make them feel stupid. Try to be understanding. Just remember that life isn't easy. A lot of people don't have the coping skills or the understanding of how to go or navigate through crazy situations in life. And it's easier to be stuck than it is to move forward, than it is to evolve. And we've been talking about that. You know, so we just need to be able to recognize when others might be stuck. And I'm not saying it's our job to unstuck them, but it is our job to be just understanding and respectful of other humans among our species, you know? We're all on Earth together. Like I said, we're pretty much all stuck here for the same 100 years. It's a blessing and a wonderful opportunity to be experiencing this cycle of life with all of you. It's magical to me. And yeah, I think it's amazing that we have evolved to a point in time where we can help each other to the extent that we are, you know, whether that be through social media or just through in-person friendships or through watching movies, reading books. Like I said, we as humans, we have a lot more resources to use than plants and animals do. So yeah, I think if we use those to our fullest potential, it would just help out a little bit more. I know we can't save the world, but like I said, we can strive to be the butterflies in this crazy, crazy place. All right, you guys. Well, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. I hope that this video inspired you or made your wheels start turning in different ways, or maybe just reminded you of some things you already knew about but just needed a little nudge, just a little, hey, remember